Hello, your Uncle Spurt here, and today I've got a hot bit of four-way action for you as we compare the fresh new Pixel 9a with the regular Pixel 9, the Pixel 9 Pro and the Pixel 9 Pro XL. And yes, I have missed out one member of the Pixel 9 family, the exceedingly bendy Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which can be yours if you happen to have a spare $1,500 kicking about. But for the purposes of this video, let's just pretend it doesn't exist and just concentrate on these four, because seriously, 4 phones, that's enough. After all, it's almost whiskey o'clock, otherwise known as 11 AM. So come with me as we explore the gaming chops, the camera tech, all the good bits. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now unfortunately, at the time I shot this video, the prices for these Pixel phones has bumped up a bit compared with a month or so ago. So they're basically back to original prices, $499 for the Pixel 9a, $799 for the Pixel 9, $999 for the Pixel 9 Pro, and £1,099 for the Pixel 9 Pro XL. So with the exception of the Pixel 9a, all truly flagship priced. As you can see there, line them all up and you've got pretty similar design, certainly on 3 of the 4. One of them kind of stands out a bit against the others. And that's because, well, these 3 are 6.3 inch blowers. The Pixel 9 Pro XL is a 6.8 inch behemoth. Of course, if you squint proper hard, you will notice that the Pixel 9a has slightly bulkier dimensions compared with the 9 and the 9 Pro. That's because those bezels surrounding the display are noticeably chunkier. And thankfully, while the Pixel 9 Pro XL is considerably taller and slightly wider than the rest of its siblings, it's no thicker and only slightly heavier. Now flip them all around and they look fairly similar apart from the Pixel 9a, which is of course the black sheep of the family, as it's completely shunned that iconic camera strip. And I've got to say, I'm not entirely used to the new refined minimalist design here on the Pixel 9a. It still looks a bit strange. One of those things hopefully I'll get used to, but it certainly has its benefits. Mostly that new, almost completely flat profile. Although I've got to say, I really liked that camera strip because it also functioned as a handy finger shelf. It's pretty good if you're trying to use these things one-handed. The other main difference is that the Pixel 9a, 9 Pro and 9 Pro XL all have a lovely matte finish. Whereas here on the regular Pixel 9, you've got a shiny, glossy surface instead, which does tend to get a bit fingerprinty and grubby. Though to be fair, same can also be said for the others if you don't give them the occasional buffing up. And it's a glass rear for the whole family apart from the cheaper Pixel 9a, which just makes do with a placky back. But it still looks good, feels good, and touchwood so far is still just as pleasingly scratch resistant. And the good news is the Pixel 9a retains the metal frame of its more expensive siblings for that more premium finish. Unfortunately, up front it is just Gorilla Glass 3 still, which is upgraded on the Pixel 9, the Pro and the Pro XL to Gorilla Glass Victus 2, which is more scratch resistant and more drop resistant. Bugger all screen protector action on any of these smartphones, and you probably want to grab yourself one of the official cases or something too, just in case. You can grab these in the same color as the actual phone itself. All of these Pixels available in a small selection of colors, including a couple of bright and bold efforts. And they're all IP68 water and dust resistant. You can fully submerge them in water, drop them in a bathtub, in a sink, in a pool or whatever, and they won't completely fizzle and die. Now, not too shockingly, it's very similar software on all 4 of these phones. Of course, the latest, freshest Android 15, as you'd expect from Google, all with 7 years of guaranteed OS updates and pixel drops and all that good stuff. Although the Pixel 9a should actually be supported for longer versus the others. That launched later, which meant it came with Android 15 out of the box, whereas the rest of the Pixels had Android 14 when they first launched. So yeah, Pixel 9a should be good all the way up to Android 22. That is assuming, of course, that there's still a planet in 7 years' time. Myself, don't think I'm going to stick around to find out. Now, the 3 main Pixel 9 flagship phones all come with an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor built into that display, which is only slightly awkward to use when it's sat in a stand like so. Whereas here on the Pixel 9a, that is downgraded to a basic optical in-display fingerprint sensor, which isn't quite as accurate. It doesn't take a full 3D model of your thumbprint. So yeah, not quite as reliable if your hands are moist or sticky, but otherwise does the job nicely, highly responsive. Had very little jip from it. You got a bit of face unlock as backup on all 4 pixel blowers, which is pretty reliable as long as the lighting isn't terrible. Fantastic privacy and security features on all these phones as well, including the fresh new theft protection feature. Got full control over exactly what information and features your apps can access. And of course, you've got that Titan M2 security chip on all 4 pixels as well. It's just a more secure way of storing your essential sensitive data, stuff like your biometrics, to help prevent it from being compromised. Of course, there are some pixel features you'll only find on the more expensive Pro phones, such as, for instance, a temperature sensor. And personally, I certainly wouldn't spend hundreds of pounds to upgrade to the Pros just for the temperature sensor. But hey, if you can even think of a single real-life use for this thing, I'd be very interested to hear from you in the comments. And the Pro models also offer support for ultra-wideband tech, which you don't get on the Pixel 9a or the Pixel 9, but I reckon vast majority of people wouldn't miss that either. And all of these Pixel 9 phones also offer a good bit of eSIM support, even the more bargainous Pixel 9a. Unfortunately, it is pretty poor news when it comes to the storage side of things, because all of these phones come with 128 gigs of storage as standard, even the £1,099 Pixel 9 Pro XL. And this is a rant I've been having quite often recently. It's just incredibly stingy, especially when a lot of budget to mid-range smartphones these days come with 256 gigs as standard. And it's especially cack when you consider that none of these buggers supports micro SD memory card expansion, but of course you can upgrade to 256 gigs of storage, and in fact the Pro phones can be upgraded to 512 gigs or even a full terabyte of built-in storage, but you're going to have to hoy even more money at Google. So now I'm going to bang on a bit about the display tech, and you got a super AQUA OLED screen on those Pro models, while the Pixel 9a and the Pixel 9 just serve up a bog standard regular AQUA display. It's still an OLED panel, so you can still expect nice crispy contrast, poppy colors, etc., but it's not LTPO tech. So the refresh rate bottoms out at just 60 Hz on the Pixel 9a and 9, while the Pros can drop all the way down to just 1 Hz when needed to preserve a bit of battery life. The Pixel 9a and 9 sport the same 1080p resolution, and that is boosted for the Pro models, so they are a bit sharper. But it's really difficult to notice much of a difference when you stick them side by side, especially if your peepers have been degraded by decades of naughty websites. Frankly, 1080p is more than sharp enough for a 6.3-inch panel. And the Pro phones are slightly brighter than the regular Pixel 9 and the 9a, although again you'll really struggle to notice much of a difference, as all 4 phones can be comfortably used outdoors even on a sunshiny day. And likewise, while the contrast isn't technically quite as strong on the Pixel 9a and 9 versus their Pro brethren, all 4 do an absolutely bang-up job of murkier scenes on the higher brightness levels. You've also got a stereo speaker set up on all of them. Obviously, if you really care about the audio, the Pixel 9 Pro XL, it's a bit beefier, a little bit bassier. But the Bluetooth streaming has been absolutely perfect for me on all 4 of these blowers. You've got the same codec support, of course, on all of them. No headphone jack action, sadly, so you will have to use a bit of a USB dongle if you want to go wired. And what about the performance? Well, of course, it is Google's own Tensor G4 chipset, which powers all of these blowers, crafted in collaboration with Samsung, but you get a measly 8 gigs of RAM with the Pixel 9a, upgraded slightly to 12 gigs of RAM for the Pixel 9, and a full-on 16 gigs of the stuff with the Pro models. Now, of course, the everyday Android experience on all 4 of these blowers is smoother than my baldy scalp after it's been lathered up with lard. They can all handle lots of apps running at the same time, all that good stuff, but when it comes to gaming, there is a clear difference between them. So the Pixel 9a will be absolutely fine if you just fancy a bit of Call of Duty, a bit of PUBG, something simple like that. However, if you do attempt to smash through a good bit of Wuthering Waves on this thing, even on the lower graphics settings, you will notice quite a few frame rate drops. The performance gets rather juddery at times, especially when things go a bit mental. I also found that Wuthering Waves played with a less than smooth frame rate on the regular Pixel 9. You'll definitely have to upgrade to the Pro models if you fancy smashing through the likes of that and Genshin Impact and more intensive memory guzzling titles. And of course, the Tensor chipset wasn't built with gaming in mind, really. It's all about that AI shenanigans. And of course, you've got a plethora of that stuffed on all of these Pixel smartphones, including, yes, a good bit of circle to search action. And yes, of course, good old Gemini, but bear in mind, you only get a year's free trial of Gemini Advanced on the Pixel 9, the 9 Pro, and the 9 Pro XL. That is excluded from the Pixel 9a. So if you want to use features like Gemini Live, for instance, you're going to have to sub that yourself. Otherwise, just say sod it and spend that cash on cheese strings and massive bottles of WKD Blue. Got pretty much all of the other googly AI features though, including the pointless ones like Pixel Studio, which allows you to create pictures of pretty much anything you want, unless it's Elon Musk teabagging Donald Trump while JD Vance cowers in a corner. Political correctness gone mad. Unfortunately, one of the best AI features that I actually use the most, the Screenshots app, is missing in action on the regular Pixel 9a. You will find it on all of the others. That's really annoying because Screenshots is fantastic for helping you to remember stuff like recipes or keep track of events that you want to attend, store away QR codes you need to use, all that kind of stuff. It can all be shoved into Screenshots and quickly and easily searched for. Anyway, you can learn more about that in my full review of the likes of the Pixel 9, just not the 9a, because yeah, bloody thing ain't on there. So that kind of sucks, but when it comes to battery life, well, the Pixel 9a is back on top, or on top for the first time in this roundup. It's actually got the largest battery capacity of this four, which is kind of mental when you see it sat side by side with the Pixel 9 Pro XL, which absolutely towers over it. And yet it's a 5,100 mAh capacity cell versus 4,700 on both the Pixel 9 and the 9 Pro, and then 5,060 mAh on the Pixel 9 Pro XL. Of course, that's not a huge difference in the general capacity, and the good news is the battery life, not a significant difference between any of these either. All four of them will see you through a full day of pretty intense action on a single charge. And that's like 7-8 hours of screen on time, good bit of video streaming, fair bit of camera play and everything as well. It's only if you're going to be gaming or video chatting for the long haul that you'll see these things dip into the battery saver mode. And if you absolutely adore a bit of video drain battery test action, well, don't say I don't ever treat you. All four of these Pixel phones can happily last a full 24 hours when playing back downloaded video at 50% screen brightness. And the Pixel 9a actually lasts a little bit longer than the others in these circumstances. But yeah, all four very impressive indeed. If you do need to charge them back up, well, you've got 27 watt wired charging support on the Pixel 9a, 9 and the 9 Pro. That is upgraded to a whopping great 37 watts on the Pixel 9 Pro XL. So when they're completely drained, the Pixel 9 Pro XL will charge up to around 70% in just 30 minutes, which is a perfectly respectable effort. And that same length of time at the plug, the Pixel 9 and the Pixel 9 Pro will hit roughly 55% despite having smaller batteries. And of course the Pixel 9a charges at the same speed, but it has a slightly bigger battery, so that will charge to just 50% in that same 30 minutes. And all four of these phones support wireless charging as well, but it is just regular Qi wireless charging, not the latest freshest Qi 2 action. And the more you spend, the quicker it gets. You've got 7.5 watt charging, 15 watts, 21 watts, and 23 watts. And it's also worth pointing out that the Pixel 9a does not support battery share, which is a feature you'll find on the 9, the 9 Pro, and the 9 Pro XL. This just allows you to power up any true wireless earbuds or smartwatches or any little accessories you've got that support wireless charging. Or indeed, your mate's smartphone, if they're running low on battery on the move, you can share a bit of your charge with them. So last up for this Pixel 9 series comparison, the camera tech, and the Pixel 9a once again the odd one of the bunch as it has a completely different setup to the others. The Pixel 9a offers up a 48 meg quad PD sensor, which appears to be a similar sensor as slapped on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, while the others all share a 50 meg octa PD sensor. Likewise, the Pixel 9, 9 Pro and 9 Pro XL all share the same 48 meg ultra wide angle sensor, as that is downgraded here on the Pixel 9a to a 13 meg effort. And last up, on the Pixel 9a and the Pixel 9, there is no telephoto sensor. If you zoom in, you're basically just zooming in digitally, whereas both the Pixel 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL boast a 48 meg quad PD telephoto shooter with 5 times optical zoom. Now the Pixel 9 and those Pro phones generally capture slightly crispier details versus the Pixel 9a, especially if you switch on the high-res mode, which is missing in action on the more budget-friendly model. And even though the Pixel 9a can capture macro shots just like its brothers here, that focus will fail if you get a bit too close to your subject. You'll notice you get this move back to improve focus message quite a lot, while the others can get to almost touching distance with sharp results. Now, I certainly saw more lens flaring on the Pixel 9a pics in sunnier times, which is rare to non-existent on the others, while the Pixel 9a can also slightly saturate with brighter scenes, and the others spaff out gloriously bold and natural looking tones. But hey, those Pixel 9a shots are still excellent, and you only really notice many of these little flaws when you scrutinize the pics side by side with the frankly excellent photos spaffed out by the rest of the Pixel 9 series. And you know what, despite sporting a different sensor for the ultra-wide angle snapper, the Pixel 9a actually holds up pretty well against the others for detail and color capture. So the obvious difference between these blowers is that telephoto shooter, which is confined to the Pro phones. This allows you to punch in up to 30 times compared with the 8 times cap on the Pixel 9a and 9 with far sharper results. Now, all 4 of these Pixel blowers boast the usual AI photo tools such as Add Me, which allows you to insert yourself into a previously taken photo, and of course the Magic Editor, which can spruce up your photo in all kinds of clever arse ways, such as the Auto Frame tool. This can actually pull back further, artificially filling in the border of the photo if you want, otherwise crop in a bit. Here in Byyeeeeee, the sky feature is particularly handy to make everything look a bit less grey and cack. And when it comes to shooting video, you'll notice a few differences, especially between the Pixel 9a and the rest of these phones. So for instance, bugger all support for 10-bit HDR shooting or the 24 frames per second frame rate. You're limited to 30 or 60 frames per second. There's no macro video shooting option here either. And also the Pixel 9 Pro phones both offer up a tasty bit of video boost action, which you don't get on the Pixel 9a or just the regular Pixel 9. And this can boost the resolution of your video from 4K up to 8K, can also improve the clarity at night. And switching on Video Boost also activates Super Res Zoom video. So when you pinch in beyond the 10 times zoom level while recording video, this will just help to sharpen up the image a bit. Now, all of this video boost action does unfortunately require uploading your footage to the cloud once it has been shot. This will happen automatically on your behalf. And mercifully, the rendering is now much quicker than it used to be when Video Boost first emerged. It used to take bloody hours for your footage to seemingly be refined, and then eventually you get a notification saying it's ready for viewing. Now happens much, much quicker. But hey, if you're not bothered about Video Boost, just happy with a bit of 4K footage, all 4 of these phones does a perfectly decent job. You've got dual mics on the 9a versus the triple mic setup on the flagships, but the Pixel 9a still does a perfectly good job of picking up on your vocals. And you've got some excellent audio editing tools to dampen down background noise post-edit. And then last up, those selfie cams. Again, different hardware on these blowers. You've got a 13 megapixel shooter here on the Pixel 9a, 10.5 megapixel on the Pixel 9, and then upgraded to a massive 42 megapixel sensor on both of the Pros. You can record 4K footage on all of these bad boys, but only up to 60 frames per second on the Pixel 9 and the 2 Pros. The Pixel 9a is stuck at just 30 frames per second. You've also got 10-bit HDR support for the Pixel 9 and the Pros, again missing in action here on the Pixel 9a. And there you have it, my lovelies. That's how the Pixel 9a, the 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL all stack up. And Christ, it's hard to hold all 4 of these at once. Slippery wee buggers. You know what, I'm just going to give up on that. Be great to hear your thoughts on which is your favorite and why down below. Are you going to stump up a ridiculous amount of money for the Pixel 9 Pro XL? Save yourself a bit of cash, grab something like the Pixel 9a instead. Please do let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Full reviews of these phones live right now on TechSpert. Apart from the 9a, it's just my unboxing as I shoot this video, but hopefully in another few days I'll have my in-depth review live for you lovely buggers too. And please do poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and more importantly, have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!